The son returned after 9 years and found his mother raising a child with his own name. A story of secrets, sacrifice, and second chances. The truck turned onto Maple Street just after noon on a Tuesday in late September. It was a good truck, a Silverado, midnight blue with chrome accents that caught the sunlight and threw it back in brilliant flashes. The kind of truck that announces arrival, that says without words, "I made it. I built something. I came back different than I left." Behind the wheel sat Marcus Chen, 32 years old, with calloused hands wrapped around the steering wheel and a smile pulling at the corners of his mouth. A smile that had been building for the last 3 hours of driving, ever since he crossed the state line and saw the sign that said "Welcome to North Carolina." The smile of a man who had been gone a long time and was finally at last coming home. The bed of the truck was loaded, boxes stacked carefully and tied down with bungee cords, new appliances still in their packaging, bags from Home Depot filled with tools and building supplies, a flat-screen television, grocery bags from the last stop, filled with the good coffee his mother liked and the expensive chocolates she would never buy for herself. And in the passenger seat, wrapped carefully in tissue paper, a jade bracelet that had cost him 3 weeks' worth of profit from his construction business in Houston. Everything carefully chosen. Everything meant to say what he had been trying to say for 9 years through phone calls and money transfers. I didn't forget. I was working for this. For us. Marcus slowed as he entered the old neighborhood. Not much had changed. The same cracked sidewalks he remembered from childhood, the same oak trees lining the street, bigger now, their branches reaching across the road to touch each other, creating a tunnel of green and gold in the afternoon light. Mrs. Patterson's house still had that fence that leaned to the left. The corner store where he used to buy candy was still there, though the sign looked more faded than he remembered. He felt something tighten in his chest as he drove. Not anxiety exactly. Something softer than that. Something that felt like memory and regret and hope all mixed together into a single complicated feeling that didn't have a name, but that every person who has ever left home and come back knows intimately. The house was 3 blocks in, on the right side, number 847, a small rancher with white siding and black shutters, the same house he had grown up in, the same house his mother had been living in alone since his father died when Marcus was 17. He pulled up to the curb and put the truck in park. The engine ticked as it cooled. Marcus sat for a moment with his hands still on the wheel, looking at the house. The yard looked good. Better than he remembered, actually. The grass was cut. There were flower boxes under the windows, filled with something bright and yellow. The mailbox had been repainted. The front steps looked new, or at least newer than they had been 9 years ago. But there was something else, something that made Marcus pause with his hand on the door handle. There was a bicycle on the front lawn, a small one, red with training wheels. And next to the front door, lined up neatly on the welcome mat, were 3 pairs of shoes. 1 large pair, women's, worn and practical, and 2 small pairs, children's sneakers. One looked like it might fit a child around 8 or 9 years old. The other was smaller, maybe size for a 5-year-old. Marcus stared at the shoes. His mother hadn't mentioned children, not once in 9 years of phone calls. She lived alone. She had always lived alone since Dad died. She worked at the library 4 days a week and volunteered at the church on Sundays, and spent her evenings reading or gardening or talking to him on the phone about his business and when he was going to come visit. Children had never been part of that picture. Marcus got out of the truck slowly. He closed the door with a soft click and stood on the sidewalk, looking at the house with new eyes. Now that he was paying attention, there were other things. A soccer ball in the flower bed. A small jacket hanging on the porch railing. Through the front window, he could see the living room, and there was a stack of what looked like children's books on the coffee table. He walked up the front path, his boots making soft sounds on the concrete. The closer he got, the more details emerged. Drawings taped to the inside of the window, crayon on construction paper, stick figures and houses and trees, a sun in the corner with rays like straight lines radiating out. The kind of art that children make when they are young enough to believe that drawing is just about putting what you see in your head onto paper, before anyone teaches them that there are rules about proportion and perspective and staying inside the lines. Marcus stood at the front door. His hand was raised to knock when he heard it. A child's voice, high and clear, coming from somewhere inside the house. "Grandma, can I have another cookie? Please." "After dinner," came the reply. His mother's voice, warm and firm in the way it had always been. The voice that had read him bedtime stories and helped him with homework and told him, the morning he left for the airport 9 years ago, "Go build something good. I'll be right here when you come back." Marcus knocked. The sound seemed very loud in the quiet afternoon. 3 sharp raps that echoed and then faded. Footsteps, not his mother's careful, measured steps. These were faster, lighter, the footsteps of a child running. The door opened. A boy stood there, maybe 8 years old, Asian features like Marcus, dark hair that stuck up a little in the back, wearing jeans and a t-shirt with a dinosaur on it. He looked up at Marcus with large, dark eyes that were curious and completely unafraid. "Hi," the boy said. Marcus stared. The boy looked like someone. Not exactly like Marcus himself, though there was something in the shape of his face, the way his eyebrows were set, that was familiar. But more than that. The boy looked like Marcus's high school photos, the ones his mother kept in the album on the bookshelf. The same slightly serious expression, the same way of standing with his weight on one foot. "Is your grandma home?" Marcus heard himself say. His voice came out normal. He was distantly surprised by this. "Grandma," the boy called over his shoulder, not moving from the doorway. "There's a man here." More footsteps, slower this time. Then his mother appeared behind the boy, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She looked older than Marcus had imagined. The phone calls and occasional video chats hadn't quite prepared him for the reality of 9 years. Her hair was more grey than black now. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. She was thinner, too. Her sweater hung loose on her frame. But her face when she saw him, it went through several expressions in the space of about 2 seconds. Confusion first, then recognition, then something that looked like joy and panic happening at exactly the same time. "Marcus," she breathed. "Hi, Mom." She stood frozen for 1 more second. Then she stepped forward and put her arms around him, dish towel still in one hand. She was shorter than he remembered, or maybe he had just gotten used to being tall. She fit under his chin now when he hugged her back. "You didn't tell me you were coming," she said into his shoulder. Her voice was muffled. He thought she might be crying. "I wanted to surprise you." She pulled back and looked up at him. Her hands were on his arms, holding tight like she was making sure he was real. "You surprised me," she said. Then she laughed, a short sound that might have been a sob. "You definitely surprised me." The boy was still standing there, watching this reunion with interest. Marcus looked at him over his mother's shoulder. The boy looked back with those large, dark eyes. "Mom," Marcus said carefully. "Who is this?" His mother's hands tensed on his arms, just slightly, just enough that he felt it. "Come inside," she said. "Come inside and I'll make tea and we'll talk." The kitchen smelled like ginger and soy sauce. Something was simmering on the stove in a large pot. His mother moved around the space with the automatic efficiency of someone who had been cooking in the same kitchen for 30 years. She filled the kettle. She took down mugs from the cabinet. She moved the pot to a back burner and turned down the heat. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, the same chairs. Everything was the same, and also somehow different. Smaller, maybe. Or maybe he had just gotten bigger. The boy had disappeared somewhere into the back of the house. Marcus could hear a television playing quietly. Cartoon voices and music. "His name is Marcus," his mother said. She said it while her back was turned, while she was spooning tea leaves into the pot. She said it casually, like she was commenting on the weather, like she hadn't just said the most confusing sentence Marcus had heard in his entire life. "I'm sorry, what?" His mother turned around. She leaned against the counter and looked at him. Really looked at him. The way she used to look at him when he was a kid, and she was trying to decide if he was telling the truth about something. "The boy," she said. "His name is Marcus. Marcus Chen Jr." Marcus stared at his mother. He opened his mouth. He closed it. He tried again. "That's my name." "Yes." "Why does he have my name?" His mother pressed her lips together. She looked at the stove. She looked at the window. She looked at her hands. "Because you're his father," she said quietly. The kitchen was very still. Outside, a car drove past. The television in the other room continued its cheerful soundtrack. The pot on the stove made a gentle bubbling sound. Marcus felt like the floor had tilted. Not dramatically. Just a few degrees. Just enough to make everything feel suddenly off balance. "I don't have a son," he said. "You do," his mother said. She said it gently, the way you tell someone something that is going to hurt, but that they need to hear anyway. "You've had a son for 8 years. Marcus put his hands flat on the table. The wood was cool and smooth under his palms, real, solid. He focused on that feeling because nothing else in the room felt real anymore. "I think," he said slowly, "you need to explain." His mother pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. She folded her hands on the table. She looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Sad, maybe, or tired, or something else entirely. "Do you remember Christina?" she asked. The name hit him like a physical thing. He hadn't heard it in 9 years, hadn't let himself think about it much. Christina Martinez, his girlfriend in high school, and the 2 years after. The girl he had been with when he decided to leave for Houston. The girl who had cried when he told her he was going. The girl who had stopped answering his calls after about 6 months. "Yes," he said. "She got pregnant," his mother said. "A few weeks after you left. She didn't know until you were already gone. When she found out, she tried to call you." Marcus thought back. 9 years ago, the first few months in Houston. He had been working 3 jobs, construction during the day, warehouse shifts at night, whatever he could get. He had been sleeping 4 hours a night and eating ramen and sending every spare dollar back home. His phone had been a cheap prepaid thing that barely worked. He had lost it twice, changed numbers twice, had gone weeks sometimes without checking messages because he was too tired to do anything but work and sleep. "I didn't get any calls," he said. "I know," his mother said. "She called me instead." The kettle began to whistle. His mother got up and poured the water. She brought the mugs to the table and set one in front of him. The steam rose between them, carrying the smell of jasmine. "Christina showed up here when she was about 4 months along," his mother continued. She wrapped her hands around her mug, but didn't drink. She was scared. Her family had kicked her out when they found out. She had nowhere to go. She asked if I could help her get in touch with you. "Why didn't you?" Marcus heard the edge in his own voice. Not quite anger, not yet, but getting there. "I tried," his mother said. "I called every number I had for you. None of them worked. I sent emails. They bounced back. You were moving around so much in those first years, staying in different places, working different jobs. You remember what it was like." He did remember. The chaos of those first years. The scramble to survive. The slow, grinding work of building something from nothing. He had been so focused on forward motion that he hadn't looked back much, hadn't wanted to. Looking back hurt. "So she stayed here," his mother said. "I told her she could stay until the baby came, until we figured out how to reach you." "And then?" His mother was quiet for a long moment. She looked down at her tea. "And then Marcus was born," she said, "on a Tuesday morning in January. 7 pounds 3 ounces, healthy and loud and perfect." She smiled a little at the memory. Then the smile faded. "Christina tried," she said. "For about 8 months she really tried. But she was young, 20 years old with a baby and no support except me. No job, no money, no future that she could see. She got depressed, really depressed. The kind where you can't get out of bed some days." Marcus felt something cold moving through his chest. "She left when Marcus was 8 months old," his mother said. "She left a note, said she couldn't do it, said she was sorry, said she hoped I could take care of him until you came back." His mother looked up at him. "She said she would come back. She promised she would come back, but she never did. Where did she go? I don't know. She left her phone here, took the money from her wallet and left. I tried to find her. I filed a missing person report, but she was an adult. She had the right to leave. The police couldn't do anything unless there was evidence of foul play. There wasn't. She just left." Marcus sat very still. He was trying to process this, trying to make it make sense. "You've been raising him," he said, "for 8 years. By yourself." "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" The question came out sharper than he intended. His mother flinched slightly. "At first, I was going to," she said. "Of course I was going to. But I couldn't reach you. And then, by the time I finally got a working number for you, you were doing so well, Marcus. You had just started your business. You were finally stable. You were calling me every week and telling me about your plans, and you sounded happy for the first time since your father died." She looked at him with eyes that were bright with unshed tears. "If I told you, you would have come back," she said. "You would have dropped everything and come running back to take care of a baby you didn't know existed. And all that work, all those years of struggle, it would have been for nothing." "That wasn't your decision to make," Marcus said. "I know," his mother said quietly. "I know it wasn't. But I made it anyway." They sat in silence. The tea cooled in their mugs. From the other room came the sound of the television, and under it, the barely audible sound of a child humming along with the music. Marcus thought about 8 years. 8 years of phone calls, where his mother never mentioned a child in the house. 8 years of video chats where she always sat with her back to a plain wall, no signs of a child visible behind her. 8 years of him sending money home, thinking he was helping her maintain the house, pay the bills, save for retirement. "Where did you tell him I was?" he asked. "The truth," his mother said. "That you were working in Texas, that you were building a business, that you were going to come home when you could." "Did you tell him I was his father?" A pause. Then, "No." Marcus looked at her. "I told him his father had to go away for work," she said. "That you didn't know about him, but you would want to meet him when you knew. I thought—" She stopped, started again. "I thought, when you finally came home, we would figure it out together. I thought there would be time." "I'm home now," Marcus said. "Yes," his mother said. "You are." That first afternoon passed in a blur of awkward normalness. Marcus brought in his bags from the truck, stacking them in his old bedroom, which looked exactly as he had left it 9 years ago, except cleaner. His mother made dinner, the ginger chicken soup that had been simmering when he arrived, with rice and stir-fried vegetables. They ate at the kitchen table, the 3 of them. Young Marcus, and Marcus couldn't quite bring himself to think of the boy as his son. Yet, the words felt too large and strange in his mind, was shy at first. He ate quietly, stealing glances at the man who was suddenly in his grandmother's house, But children have a limited capacity for sustained shyness, especially 8-year-olds. And by dessert, he was talking. He talked about school, about his teacher, Mrs. Henderson, who was nice but gave too much homework, about his friend Daniel, who could do a backflip, about the book he was reading about space exploration. He talked with the unself-conscious enthusiasm of a child who has not yet learned to be careful with his interests, who has not yet learned that adults might not find the details of his third-grade life as fascinating as he does. Marcus listened. He tried to listen, but part of his brain was elsewhere, racing through calculations and memories and trying to fit this new reality into the framework of his life. 8 years old. That meant he was born in... Marcus counted back. January, 9 years ago. That would have been 3 months after he left, which meant Christina was already pregnant when he left. She might have known, or she might have found out a few weeks later. Either way, she had been carrying his child when he got on that plane to Houston, and he had had no idea. He looked at the boy, really looked, trying to see himself in those features. The dark hair was from Christina. She had had beautiful dark hair, long and straight, and always smelling like coconut shampoo. But the shape of the face, the way the boy's eyebrows were set, the expression he made when he was thinking hard about something, Marcus saw echoes of his own childhood photos in those features. "Do you like trucks?" the boy asked suddenly. Marcus blinked, pulled back to the present. "What? Trucks?" the boy repeated. "Do you like them? You have a really cool truck." "Oh, yeah, I guess I do." "What kind is it?" "It's a Silverado, a 2500. The boy's eyes went wide. "That's a big one. Does it have 4-wheel drive?" "It does." "Cool," the boy breathed. Then, with the careful politeness of a child who has been taught to ask before assuming, "Could I see it, like sit in it, maybe?" Marcus looked at his mother. She was watching them both with an expression he couldn't quite read. She gave a small nod. "Sure," Marcus said. "After dinner." So after the dishes were cleared and stacked in the sink, Marcus took the boy outside to look at the truck. The evening was cool, the light golden and slanting. The boy ran ahead, his sneakers slapping on the sidewalk, and stood beside the truck, with his hands clasped in front of him, like he was restraining himself from touching it. Marcus unlocked it. He opened the passenger door, and the boy climbed up, needing to grab the handle and pull himself up, because his legs were still too short to make the step easily. He settled into the seat and looked around with the wide-eyed wonder of someone experiencing something entirely new. "It smells new," the boy said. "It's only 6 months old." "Whoa!" Marcus stood by the open door and watched the boy explore. He touched the dashboard. He examined the radio controls. He opened the glove box and peered inside, then closed it carefully. He looked at everything with the intense focus that children bring to new things. "My grandma says you're from Texas," the boy said without looking at Marcus. He was running his hand along the leather seat, feeling the texture. "That's right, Houston. Is it hot there?" "Very hot, especially in summer." "Do they have cowboys?" Marcus smiled a little. "Not as many as people think, but some." "Do you have a horse?" "No, just the truck." "Oh," the boy thought about this. "The truck is better than a horse anyway. It has air conditioning." "That's true." The boy looked at him then. Direct eye contact, the way kids do before they learn to be indirect about things. "My grandma says you're going to stay for a while, are you?" Something in Marcus's chest tightened. "Yeah," he said. "I'm going to stay." "Good," the boy said, simply. Then he turned back to examining the truck's features. They stayed out there for another 20 minutes. Marcus answered questions about the engine and the towing capacity and what kind of gas mileage it got. The boy listened to every answer like it was the most interesting thing he had ever heard. When they came back inside, his mother was at the kitchen table with a box in front of her, a cardboard shoebox, old and slightly crushed at the corners. She looked up when they entered. "He's going to bed soon," she said, addressing the boy. "Brush your teeth. I'll be in to say good night in a few minutes." "Okay, Grandma." The boy looked at Marcus. "Thank you for showing me your truck." "You're welcome," Marcus said. The boy headed down the hallway. They heard the bathroom door close, the sound of water running. Marcus looked at his mother. "What's in the box?" "Everything," she said. Inside the box was proof. Documents and photos and objects that confirmed everything his mother had told him and added layers of detail he hadn't been prepared for. There was a birth certificate, official, with the state seal. Marcus Daniel Chen, born January 15th at 6:47 a.m. at Mercy Hospital. Mother, Christina Isabel Martinez. Father, Marcus James Chen. He stared at his own name in the father field. Seeing it there made it real in a way the conversation at dinner hadn't. There was a hospital bracelet, tiny, with baby boy Chen printed on it in black ink. There were photos. Christina in the hospital bed, pale and exhausted, holding a bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. Christina at his mother's house, sitting in the rocking chair in the living room. The baby at her breast, looking down at him with an expression that was equal parts love and terror. The baby on his stomach, on a blanket on the floor, maybe 3 months old, looking up at the camera with wide eyes. There were more recent photos. The boy at various ages, 1 year old with cake smeared on his face, 2 years old taking his first steps in the backyard, 3, 4, 5, school pictures with the classic backdrop and fake smile, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, the boy growing up in frames, year by year, while Marcus was in Houston, building houses and sending money home and having no idea. There was a letter, folded and unfolded so many times that the creases were soft and starting to tear. Marcus opened it carefully. The handwriting was feminine, loopy, and pressed hard into the paper. Christina's handwriting. He remembered it from notes she used to leave in his locker in high school. Little folded squares of paper with messages like, "Meet me after class," or "I miss you," with hearts drawn in the corners. This letter was different. "Dear Marcus, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if Margaret will ever give it to you, but I need to write it anyway. I tried to tell you I was pregnant. I called and called, but I couldn't reach you. By the time I finally got your mom's number, you were so far away and doing so well, and I couldn't bring you back, not like that, not because of this. I'm sorry I'm not stronger. I'm sorry I can't do this. Every time I look at him, I see you. And every time I see you, I remember that you're not here. And I just can't. I can't. He's beautiful. You should know that. He has your eyes. He has your serious little face. When he looks at me, really looks, it's like he's trying to figure everything out, just like you always did. I'm leaving him with your mom, because I know she'll take care of him better than I can. I know that makes me a terrible person. I know it does. But I can't be what he needs. And he needs someone who can. Tell him I loved him. Tell him I tried. Tell him anything you want as long as it's not the truth, which is that his mother was too weak to stay. I'm sorry, Marcus, for everything. I hope you build something good out there. I hope you're happy." Christina Marcus read the letter twice. Then he folded it carefully and put it back in the box. He felt like he should say something, but he didn't know what. All the words that came to mind felt too small for what he was feeling. His mother had been watching him read. "She was young," she said quietly, "and scared, and alone except for me. I don't think she was weak. I think she was drowning. Where did she go? I don't know. I hired someone to try to find her a few years ago. A private investigator. He couldn't find any trace of her after she left here. No social media, no paper trail. Either she changed her name or she trailed off. Or what? Or something happened to her." They sat with that possibility in the quiet kitchen. Marcus thought about Christina at 19, bright and funny and full of plans. She was going to be a teacher. She was going to travel. She had a list of countries she wanted to visit, written in that same loopy handwriting on a piece of paper she kept folded in her wallet. He wondered if she still had that list, or if she had ever gotten to visit any of those places. "Does he know?" Marcus asked. "About Christina. I've told him his mother had to leave, but that she loved him very much. I've tried to be honest without being cruel, but he's 8. He doesn't really understand yet what it means that she's gone." "Does he ask about me?" His mother looked at him. "All the time," she said. "When is my father coming home? Why did he leave? Does he know about me? Will he want to meet me?" She paused. "I told him you didn't know, that if you knew you would have come immediately. I didn't want him to think you chose to stay away." "What do I tell him now?" Marcus asked. "Now that I'm here?" "The truth," his mother said, "or as much of it as he can understand. He's a smart boy. He deserves to know." Marcus looked at the box, at the photos and the letter and the tiny hospital bracelet, evidence of a life running parallel to his own, a son growing up 3 states away while he was building a business and making money and planning his triumphant return. He had come home to surprise his mother, to fix the house and prove that leaving had been worth it. He had come home a success. Instead, he had come home to find that he had missed everything that mattered. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in his old bed in his old room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of a house that was the same but different. The same creak of the pipes when someone ran water, the same distant hum of the refrigerator, but also new sounds, smaller sounds, the sounds of a child sleeping in the room next door. Around midnight he gave up on sleep and got up. He walked quietly through the dark house to the kitchen and poured himself a glass of water from the tap. He stood at the sink, drinking it and looking out the window at the backyard. His mother had put in a garden since he'd left. He could see the shapes of raised beds in the moonlight. She had always wanted a garden. "Can't sleep either." Marcus turned. His mother was standing in the doorway in her bathrobe, her hair down around her shoulders. "Sorry," he said. "Did I wake you?" "No. I haven't been sleeping well lately." She came into the kitchen and sat at the table. Marcus sat across from her, the same positions they had been in that afternoon. It was starting to feel like their assigned seats. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then his mother said, "I know you're angry." "I'm not angry," Marcus said automatically. Then he thought about it. "Maybe I am. I don't know. I'm too confused to know what I am." "You have a right to be angry." "Do I?" He looked at her. "You raised my son for 8 years by yourself. You did that while I was sending you a few $100s a month and thinking I was being helpful. You were feeding him and clothing him and getting him to school and dealing with everything alone. What right do I have to be angry?" His mother smiled sadly. "You have every right. I kept your son from you. That's not a small thing. You were trying to protect me." "I was trying to protect myself," she said, "from having to watch you give up everything you'd worked for. From having to be the one who called you back to a life you were desperate to escape. I told myself it was for you, but it was for me too." Marcus thought about this, about his mother making breakfast for a baby while he was in Houston eating breakfast tacos from a food truck, about her walking that baby to the pediatrician alone while he was negotiating contracts with clients, about her sitting up at night with a sick child while he was at the bar with his crew celebrating landing a big job. "I should have been here," he said. "You're here now, 8 years too late." "Better late than never," his mother said. Then more gently, "He's a good boy, Marcus. He's smart and kind and curious about everything. He asks 100 questions a day. He wants to understand how everything works. He's so much like you were at that age. I don't know him. Then get to know him. You have time now. What if I'm not good at this? The question came out before Marcus could stop it. What if I don't know how to be a father? His mother reached across the table and put her hand over his. Her skin was cool and papery. Nobody knows how to be a father before they do it, she said. Your father didn't. I watched him hold you for the first time in the hospital, and he looked absolutely terrified. But he figured it out. You will too. Dad had 9 months to prepare. I had 9 hours. Then you'll just have to learn faster, his mother said with a small smile. They sat quietly for another few minutes. Then Marcus said, Tell me about him. Everything. I want to know everything I missed. So she told him. She told him about the pregnancy and the birth, about Christina's struggle and eventual departure, about the first time the baby rolled over, and the first time he sat up, and the first word he said, which was, Mama, directed at his grandmother, who had been the only consistent mother figure he had ever known. She told him about sleepless nights and teething, and the time he got croup at 2 years old, and she had to take him to the emergency room at 3 in the morning. About his first day of preschool, when he had cried for 10 minutes, and then stopped abruptly when he saw the toy trucks in the classroom. About how he had always loved trucks and trains and anything with wheels. She told him about starting kindergarten and learning to read. About his obsession with dinosaurs that lasted an entire year, about the phase when he insisted on wearing his Superman cape everywhere, even to bed, about his best friend Daniel, who lived 2 streets over, and how they had elaborate games involving stick swords and imaginary dragons. She told him about the small things and the large things, and all the moments in between that make up a childhood. And Marcus listened and tried to picture all of it, tried to insert himself retroactively into those scenes, tried to imagine what it would have been like to be there. When she finished, the kitchen was getting lighter. Dawn was starting to break. The sky outside the window was shifting from black to deep blue to purple. He's going to want to know about you, his mother said, about where you've been, what you've been doing. You're going to have to decide how much to tell him. I'll tell him everything, Marcus said, or as much as he wants to know. And what are you going to tell him about why you weren't here? The truth, that I didn't know about him, that if I had known, I would have come immediately. His mother nodded slowly. He's going to have questions, hard questions, like why his mother left, and why I didn't tell you sooner, and whether you're going to leave again. I'm not going to leave again, Marcus said. Are you sure? You have a business in Houston, a life there. I can run the business from here, or I can sell it. I haven't figured that part out yet, but I'm not leaving him, not now that I know. His mother looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Good, she said. That's good. The boy was up early. Marcus heard him before he saw him, the sound of small feet padding down the hallway, the creak of the bathroom door, the toilet flushing, the sink running, then more footsteps into the kitchen. Marcus was already up, having given up on sleep entirely around 5. He was at the stove making scrambled eggs, figuring it was something useful to do with his hands, while his brain continued to process the previous day's revelations. Hi, the boy said from the doorway. Marcus turned. The boy was in pajamas, Spider-Man, his hair sticking up in several directions. He looked sleepy and small and young, 8 years old, just a kid. Morning, Marcus said. You hungry? Yeah. Eggs okay? I like eggs. Good. Have a seat. The boy climbed into a chair at the table. He sat with his legs swinging, not quite long enough to reach the floor. He watched Marcus cook with the intense interest that children have for adults doing everyday tasks. Are you a good cook? The boy asked. I'm okay. Not as good as your grandma. Nobody's as good as Grandma. She makes really good dumplings. I remember, Marcus said. Then, realizing this sounded strange, I mean, She used to make them for me when I was a kid. Oh, the boy thought about this. Is this your house too? Like, did you used to live here? I grew up here. In the room you're sleeping in, actually. The boy's eyes widened. Really? That's your room? It was. A long time ago. Did you have the same bed? I did. Whoa! Marcus plated the eggs and brought them to the table. He made toast and put out butter and jam. The boy ate methodically without fuss, clearly hungry. Marcus sat across from him with his own plate, but he found he wasn't particularly hungry. He mostly pushed the eggs around while watching the boy eat. After a few minutes of silence, the boy said, "Grandma says you know how to build houses." "I do." "Like actual houses that people live in?" "Yep." "That's so cool." The boy took another bite of eggs, chewed thoughtfully. "Do you think you could teach me to build houses?" "Yeah, or like, to build anything. I really want to know how things are built. Like, how do you make a wall that doesn't fall down? What holds up the roof? How do pipes work?" Marcus found himself smiling. "Those are good questions. I can teach you some stuff if you want." "Really?" The boy's face lit up in a way that made him look even younger. "That would be awesome. We could start small. Maybe build something in the backyard, like a birdhouse or something. Could we build a tree house? There's no tree big enough." "Oh." Disappointment flickered across the boy's face. Then he brightened. "What about a fort? Like on the ground, with walls and a roof?" "We could probably do that." "Yes." The boy pumped his fist. Then, remembering his manners, "Thank you. That would be really cool." They finished breakfast. Marcus cleared the plates. The boy sat at the table and watched him, and Marcus could feel the weight of the watching, could feel the questions building. He knew they were coming. He wasn't sure he was ready for them, but he didn't see how he could avoid them either. "Can I ask you something?" the boy said. "Sure." "Are you my dad?" The question was so direct, so unbuffered by the normal social padding that adults use, that it hit Marcus in the chest, like a physical thing. He turned around slowly and looked at the boy, at his son, who was looking back at him with perfect calmness, just asking a question the way you might ask what time it is. "What makes you ask that?" Marcus said carefully. "Grandma says my dad is named Marcus. You're named Marcus, and you're here. And you look like the picture she has." "What picture?" "The one in her bedroom, from when you were in high school. You have the same face." Marcus pulled out a chair and sat down. He felt like this conversation required him to be at eye level, or as close to it as he could get. "Yeah," he said, "I'm your dad." The boy looked at him, processing. "Did you know about me?" "No, I just found out yesterday." "Oh." The boy thought about this. "So you didn't leave on purpose, like knowing about me?" "No, if I had known about you, I would have come back right away." "Really?" "Really." The boy nodded slowly. He seemed to be working through something in his head. "Grandma said you were working, building houses in Texas." "That's right." "Why didn't you come back before?" This was the harder question, the one Marcus had been dreading. "Because I didn't know you existed," he said. "Your grandma didn't tell me. She was trying to protect me. And also, I think, she was trying to protect you. She wanted to make sure I was stable enough to take care of you before she told me." "Are you?" the boy asked. "Stable enough?" Marcus almost laughed. The question was so practical, so matter-of-fact. "I think so," he said. "I have a business. I make enough money. I can take care of you. Are you going to stay here?" "Yes." "For how long?" "For good. I'm not going back to Texas. Not to live, anyway." The boy looked at him for a long moment. Really looked, and Marcus saw something in his eyes that might have been hope, or might have been fear, or both. "Okay," the boy said, "just that. Okay." The way his grandmother had said it the night before. A Chen family trait, apparently, accepting big news with small words. They sat at the table while the morning light got stronger through the kitchen window. The boy swung his legs and didn't say anything else. Marcus didn't push. He figured the kid probably had a lot more questions, but needed time to figure out how to ask them. After a while, the boy said, "I have school." "I know, Grandma told me. We should probably get you ready. Will you take me?" The question was casual, but Marcus heard the weight under it, the test embedded in it. Will you do dad things? Will you show up? Can I trust you? "Yeah," Marcus said. "I'll take you." The school was 6 blocks away. They walked, the boy chattering about his class and his teacher and a project they were doing on the solar system. Marcus listened and tried to remember the last time he had walked anywhere just for the sake of walking. In Houston, he drove everywhere. His truck was his office and his storage unit and his escape. This was different, the slow pace, the smell of someone's lawn being mowed. The sound of the boy's voice beside him, high and quick, full of information about Jupiter's moons and why Pluto wasn't a planet anymore. They reached the school, a low brick building with colorful murals painted on the walls. Kids were streaming in, some with parents, some in groups, some alone. The boy stopped at the gate and turned to Marcus. "You don't have to walk me in," he said. "I'm old enough to go by myself." "Okay," Marcus said. "I'll pick you up after school?" "Grandma usually picks me up at 3. "I'll be here at 3. The boy nodded. Then, after a moment's hesitation, he said, "Bye, Dad." He said it quietly, almost like he was testing the word out, seeing how it felt in his mouth. Then he turned and walked through the gate, his backpack bouncing against his shoulders. Marcus stood there for a minute, watching him go, watching him disappear into the stream of other children. Dad. The boy had called him Dad. Just once, just to see what it was like. But he had said it. Marcus walked back to the house slowly, taking his time, trying to process the morning, trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do now. When he got back, his mother was in the garden. She had gloves on and was pulling weeds from around the tomato plants. She looked up when she heard him approach. "How was the walk?" she asked. "Good. He talks a lot." His mother smiled. "He does. Gets that from his mother." Christina could talk for hours about nothing and everything. Marcus came and sat on the edge of one of the raised beds. "He called me Dad." His mother stopped weeding. She looked at him. "How did that feel?" "Weird. Scary. Good. I don't know. All of those things at once." "That sounds about right." Marcus looked at the garden, at the careful rows of vegetables, the stakes supporting the tomato plants. The mulch spread evenly around everything. "You did all this," he said. "The garden, the house, raising him, all of it while I was gone. Someone had to. I should have been here." "You're here now," his mother said. She said it the same way she had said it the night before, like it was simple, like it was enough. "That's what matters." "Is it?" Marcus looked at her. "I missed 8 years. How do I make up for that?" "You don't," his mother said. "You can't go back and change the past. You can only move forward. Be present now. That's all anyone can do." Marcus thought about this, about the impossibility of making up for lost time, about how you can't retroactively become someone you weren't. All you can do is become who you need to be from this moment forward. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "Nobody does, not at first, but you'll figure it out." His mother pulled another weed and tossed it in the pile beside her. "He already likes you, you know. That's a good start." "He doesn't know me." "Then let him. Let him know you. The real you, not some perfect version of a father you think you should be, just you. What if just me isn't enough?" His mother stood up and came over to him. She put her gardening-gloved hand on his shoulder. "Marcus, you built a business from nothing. You went to a city where you didn't know anyone and you made a life. You're smart and hard-working and kind. You're more than enough." Marcus wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that showing up late was better than not showing up at all, that being present from this moment forward could somehow balance out 8 years of absence. He wasn't sure it could, but he was going to try anyway, because what else could he do? That afternoon at 3, Marcus was at the school gate. He stood with the other parents, most of them mothers, a few fathers, a couple of grandparents. They looked at him with the mild curiosity that people have for new faces in familiar places. He didn't talk to anyone, just stood and waited. When the bell rang and the kids started pouring out, Marcus watched for the boy, for his son. He spotted him coming out with another boy, both of them laughing about something. When the boy saw Marcus at the gate, he stopped for a second. Then he grinned and ran over. "You came," he said. "I said I would." "I know, but—" the boy trailed off. "But adults say things they don't mean sometimes, but people leave. But I've learned not to count on things." He didn't say any of that out loud, but Marcus heard it anyway in the pause. "I'll always come," Marcus said. "If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'll be there." The boy looked at him seriously. "Promise." "Promise." "Okay." The boy accepted this with a nod. Then he turned to his friend, who had been waiting a polite distance away. "This is my dad. He just got back from Texas." The friend, a skinny kid with glasses, looked at Marcus with interest. "Cool. Did you ride a horse?" "Not really. They have cars in Texas." "Oh." The friend looked disappointed. "Daniel said you probably rode a horse." "Daniel's imagination is bigger than reality," the boy said, with the patient tone of someone who has explained this many times. He turned to Marcus. "Can we go home? I want to show you my room. I have a lot of stuff about space." "Sure." Odin, they walked home, the boy talking the whole way, about his day, about what they learned in math, about the girl who sits next to him, who always borrows his eraser and never gives it back. Marcus listened and made the appropriate noises at the appropriate times. It was surprisingly easy. Kids don't require you to be profound. They just require you to be there and paying attention. When they got home, his mother was at work. She did evening shifts at the library twice a week. The house was quiet. The boy led Marcus to his room, which was the smaller of the 2 bedrooms. It was clearly the boy's space. Posters of space shuttles on the walls, a mobile of the solar system hanging from the ceiling, books stacked on the nightstand, toys organized in bins along one wall. "This is where I keep all my space stuff," the boy said, gesturing to a bookshelf crammed with library books about planets and stars and astronauts. "Did you know that Jupiter has at least 79 moons? That's so many. I did not know that. And there's a planet made entirely of diamond, like the whole thing. It's called 55 Cancri E. That's amazing." The boy beamed. He clearly loved having an audience for his space facts. He went through his collection, pulling out books and showing Marcus his favorite pages, explaining things with the unself-conscious enthusiasm of someone sharing something they love, with someone they hope will love it too. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed and listened, and somewhere in the middle of learning about the hexagonal storm on Saturn's North Pole, it hit him. This was his son, this small person with the too long hair and the gap in his front teeth where a baby tooth had recently fallen out. This person who knew more about the solar system than most adults and who had called him Dad that morning like it was the most natural thing in the world. His son. The weight of it was enormous. The responsibility, the love, the fear, all of it at once. "Are you okay?" the boy asked. He was looking at Marcus with concern. "Yeah," Marcus said. His voice came out rougher than intended. He cleared his throat. "Yeah, I'm really glad I'm here. That's all." The boy smiled. "Me too," he said. Then, without any transition, "Do you want to see my rock collection?" "You have a rock collection." "Of course, doesn't everyone?" Marcus laughed. A real laugh. The first one since he'd arrived. Show me the rocks." The days settled into a rhythm. A new rhythm, unfamiliar but not uncomfortable. Marcus got up early, made breakfast, walked the boy to school, came back and worked on the house. His mother's house, which he now saw with new eyes. Eyes that noticed how the paint was peeling on the north side, how the steps to the back door were rotting, how the bathroom faucet leaked, how the insulation in the attic was probably 30 years old and doing almost nothing. He had come home to surprise his mother with renovations. That plan hadn't changed. It had just gotten bigger, because this wasn't just his mother's house anymore. This was his son's house, the place where the boy had grown up, the place where he would keep growing up. And Marcus wanted it to be good, solid, warm in winter and cool in summer. He wanted it to be the kind of place a kid could feel safe. So he worked. He stripped the old paint from the siding and put on new. He replaced the back steps. He fixed the leaking faucet and the running toilet. He went up into the attic and saw the sad state of the insulation and called a company to come blow in new stuff. He went down to the basement and looked at the ancient furnace and scheduled a replacement. He worked with his hands, and his mind kept working too, thinking about Christina, about where she might be, whether she was okay, whether she thought about the son she had left behind, whether she regretted it, whether she wanted to come back, but felt like too much time had passed. He thought about calling the private investigator his mother had hired, starting the search again. But for what? To bring Christina back? To make her be a mother? You can't force those things. And besides, he wasn't sure what would be better for the boy, having a mother who didn't want to be there, or having the truth, which was that his mother had made a choice, and it wasn't him. In the afternoons, he picked up the boy from school. They walked home together. The boy talked about his day. Marcus listened. At home, they did homework at the kitchen table. The boy struggled with math, but was good at reading. Loved reading, could lose himself in a book for hours, just like Christina used to. In the evenings, they had dinner with Marcus's mother, the three of them at the table, passing dishes, talking about their days. It felt like family. It felt like something Marcus had been missing without realizing it. Not just family in the abstract, but this family. This specific configuration of people who were connected by blood and circumstance and the daily practice of showing up. At night, Marcus lay in his old bed and called his business partner in Houston, Rico, who had been with him since the beginning, who knew everything about the business because they had built it together. "I need to stay here," Marcus told him, "for a while, maybe permanently." "Because of the kid," Rico said. He didn't sound surprised. Marcus had told him everything the day after he arrived, had needed to tell someone, had chosen Rico because Rico was the most unshockable person he knew. "Yeah, you sure about this, man? We got 3 projects lined up. The Thompson renovation, the commercial building in Midtown, that new development in Sugarland. I know you can handle them." "I can handle them," Rico agreed. "But is that what you want? To walk away from this?" "I'm not walking away, I'm just shifting focus. I can still do consulting from here, manage projects remotely. We have the technology, but I can't be in Houston right now. I need to be here. For the kid. For my son." There was a pause. Then Rico said, "Aight, I respect that. Family first. You're okay with this?" "Marcus, we've been business partners for 7 years, but before that, we were friends, and friends support each other. So yeah, I'm okay with it. We'll figure it out. Thanks, man. Just promise me you'll visit. You gotta come back and at least inspect the Thompson job. They specifically asked for you." "I'll come back for inspections, just not to live." "Fair enough." They talked logistics for a while, how to restructure the business, how to handle billing, how to keep clients happy when the face of the company was suddenly in a different state. It was complicated, but not impossible. Marcus had built systems, had hired good people. The business could function without him physically being there every day. It would just have to. After he hung up, Marcus lay in the dark and thought about what he was giving up. The business he had built from nothing. The life he had made in Houston. His apartment with the view of the skyline. The crew he worked with. The routine he had established. But then he thought about the boy, about the gap-toothed smile and the endless space facts and the way he said "Dad," like he was still testing it out, seeing if it would stick. There was no question which mattered more. 2 weeks after Marcus arrived, the boy had a nightmare. Marcus woke to the sound of crying, not loud, muffled, coming from the next room. He got up and padded down the hallway in his bare feet. The boy's door was ajar. Marcus pushed it open slowly. The boy was sitting up in bed, crying quietly. Not the wailing of a young child, but the suppressed crying of someone who has learned to keep his distress quiet, who doesn't want to bother anyone. Marcus came and sat on the edge of the bed. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay?" The boy shook his head. His face was wet with tears. "Bad dream?" A nod. "You want to talk about it?" The boy hesitated. Then in a small voice, "You left. In the dream?" "Yeah. You got in your truck and drove away, and Grandma said you weren't coming back, and I tried to run after you, but I couldn't catch up, and you just kept driving." Marcus felt something crack in his chest. "Hey," he said. "Hey, look at me." The boy looked up. His eyes were red. He looked so young, so small. "I'm not leaving," Marcus said. "I know I just got here. I know you don't have any reason to believe me yet, but I'm not leaving. I'm staying right here. Promise? Promise. I promise on everything, on my truck, on my business, on my life. I'm not going anywhere." The boy looked at him, searching his face for truth, for certainty, for the thing that would let him believe. "Can I tell you something?" Marcus said. "Okay. I didn't know about you. For 8 years, I didn't know you existed. And I'm so sorry about that. I'm sorry I wasn't here. But now that I know, now that I've met you, there is no way I'm leaving. You're my son. Do you understand what that means? That you're my dad? It means you're stuck with me for the rest of your life, even when you get older and you don't want me around, even when you're a teenager and you think I'm annoying, even when you're an adult and you're doing your own thing. I'm always going to be your dad, and I'm always going to be here when you need me." The boy's lip quivered. "Really? Really? Even if I have another bad dream? Especially then?" And the boy lunged forward and wrapped his arms around Marcus's neck, held on tight. Marcus hugged him back, one hand on his small back, feeling the fragile bones of his shoulders through his pajama shirt. The boy smelled like kid shampoo and sleep. His hair was soft against Marcus's cheek. They stayed like that for a long time, until the boy's breathing evened out, until the tears stopped, until the boy pulled back and wiped his face with his pajama sleeve. "Do you want me to stay until you fall asleep?" Marcus asked. The boy nodded, so Marcus lay down on top of the covers next to his son. The bed was small. It was meant for one person, a child. Marcus's feet hung off the end, but he stayed. He lay there in the dark while the boy curled up on his side, facing him, his breathing gradually slowing. "Dad?" the boy whispered after a few minutes. "Yeah? I'm glad you came back." "Me too, buddy, me too." The boy fell asleep, holding Marcus's hand. And Marcus stayed there, uncomfortable and cramped and more content than he had been in 9 years. On Saturday, Marcus took the boy to the hardware store. They were going to build something together, the fort that the boy had asked about that first morning. Marcus had drawn up plans. Nothing complicated, just a simple wooden structure with walls and a roof. But it would be something they made together, with their hands. Something that would exist because they built it. The boy was beside himself with excitement. He ran ahead in the aisles of the hardware store, then circled back, then ran ahead again, like a puppy on a walk, all energy and enthusiasm. "Can we get that?" he asked, pointing to a circular saw. "We don't need a circular saw. I have one at home." "What about that?" "A nail gun." "Also have one." "What about paint? Can we paint it?" "What color?" The boy thought seriously about this. "Blue, like the sky." "Sky blue it is." They loaded a cart with lumber, 2x4s and plywood, a box of screws, sandpaper, the paint. The boy helped push the cart, his hands alongside Marcus's on the handle, his face set in concentration like this was serious business. At the register, the cashier smiled at them. "Building something fun?" she asked the boy. "A fort," the boy said. "My dad's going to teach me." "My dad." He said it so naturally, so easily, like it was a fact that had always been true. Marcus felt that crack in his chest widen a little more. In a good way, they loaded everything into the truck bed and drove home. At a stoplight, the boy said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Did you want me?" The question was so direct, so vulnerable. Marcus looked over at him. The boy was looking straight ahead through the windshield, his hands in his lap. "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, though he thought he knew. "I mean, when you found out about me. Did you wish I wasn't here? Did you wish you didn't have a kid?" "No," Marcus said immediately. "Not even for a second." "Really? Really? Was I surprised?" "Yes." "Was I scared?" "Also yes." "But did I wish you weren't here?" "Never." The boy looked at him. "But your whole life changed. You had to leave Texas. You had to change your plans." "My plans didn't matter. You matter. You're my son. There's nothing more important than that." "But—" "No buts," Marcus said gently. "Listen to me. I spent 9 years building a business. And you know what? The business is just a thing. It's money and projects and deadlines. But you're a person. You're my person. And I would give up every project, every dollar, every plan I ever made to be here with you. Do you understand?" The boy nodded slowly. "I think so." "Good." The light turned green. Marcus drove. After a moment he added, "Did someone tell you I didn't want you?" "No, sometimes I think that's why my mum left." "Because she didn't want me." Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. "Your mum left because she was struggling. It wasn't about you. It was about her. She was young and scared, and she didn't know how to be a mother. But that doesn't mean you weren't wanted. Your grandma wanted you. I want you. You are very, very wanted." "Okay," the boy said quietly. "Okay." "Okay." They drove the rest of the way in silence. Not uncomfortable silence. Just the quiet of two people who had said what needed to be said and were now sitting with it. At home, they unloaded the truck. Marcus's mother came out to see what they were doing. When she saw the lumber, she smiled. "You're building the fort." "We're building the fort," Marcus confirmed. "Can I help?" she asked. "Absolutely," the boy said. "We need all the help we can get." So the three of them spent the afternoon in the backyard. Marcus measured and cut. The boy helped hold pieces in place. His mother handed over screws and tools when needed. They worked together in the warm September sun, with the smell of cut wood and the sound of the drill and the feeling of making something. By evening the frame was up. The walls were in place. The roof was half done. It looked good, solid, level. The boy stood back and looked at it with his hands on his hips, looking exactly like Marcus when he was inspecting a job site. "It's really good," the boy said. "We're actually building it." "We are," Marcus agreed. "Can we finish it tomorrow?" "We can finish it tomorrow." "And then can I sleep in it?" Marcus looked at his mother. She shrugged, smiling. "If your dad says it's safe, then sure." "Your dad," she had said. Naturally, like it was a fact, like it had always been a fact. Marcus looked at the fort, at the boy, at his mother, at this life that had appeared in front of him 2 weeks ago. This life he hadn't known he was missing. "Yeah," he said. "You can sleep in it." The boy whooped and did a little dance. Then he ran to hug Marcus, a full-body hug, arms around waist, face pressed against stomach. Marcus put his hand on the boy's head, on his son's head, and thought that maybe his mother was right. Maybe being late was better than never. Maybe showing up now was enough. Or if it wasn't enough yet, maybe it could be someday. That night, after the boy was asleep, Marcus sat with his mother on the front porch. They had mugs of tea and a blanket against the cooling evening air. The street was quiet. A few houses down, someone was grilling. The smell of charcoal and meat drifted on the breeze. "He's getting attached to you," his mother said. "Is that bad?" "No, but it means you can't change your mind. You can't decide in 6 months that you want to go back to Houston. He needs you to be sure." "I'm sure." His mother looked at him. "Are you? Really? Because this is it, Marcus. This is your life now. Not the business, not the freedom of being single and childless. This, a kid who needs dinner and help with homework and someone to pick him up from school. A kid who's going to get sick and have bad dreams and ask you questions you don't know how to answer. Are you ready for that?" Marcus thought about the last 2 weeks, about the early mornings and the long days, and the conversations about space and rocks and why the sky is blue, about the nightmare and the boy's tears and the small hand holding his in the dark, about building a fort in the backyard and the boy's face when he saw it taking shape. "Yeah," he said, "I'm ready." His mother smiled. "Good, because he needs you. More than he'll probably ever say out loud." "I need him too," Marcus said. "I didn't know it until I met him, but I do." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus said, "Tell me more about Christina. I want to understand what happened." His mother took a sip of tea. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How she ended up here. What she was like with the baby. Why she left. I want to understand." So his mother told him about Christina showing up 5 months pregnant, crying on the doorstep, about how she had tried to reach Marcus, but couldn't, about how his mother had taken her in because what else could she do? She told him about the pregnancy, how Christina had been scared but trying, going to prenatal appointments, reading parenting books, preparing as best she could for something she wasn't prepared for. She told him about the birth, how Christina had labored for 18 hours, how she had been terrified and exhausted, and how when they finally put the baby in her arms, she had looked at him with this expression of wonder and terror, like she couldn't believe she was responsible for this small, perfect thing. She told him about the first months, how Christina had tried, really tried, but she had been struggling, with the physical exhaustion of new motherhood, with the isolation of being in his mother's house with no friends nearby, no support system beyond one woman who was kind, but not her mother, with the profound loneliness of being 20 years old and trapped in a life she hadn't chosen. She loved him, his mother said. "I want you to understand that. She loved that baby. But loving someone and being capable of taking care of them are 2 different things. And Christina wasn't capable. Not then. Maybe not ever." "Did she say why she left?" "The note she left was short. Just said she couldn't do it. That she was sorry. That she hoped I would take care of him until you came back." His mother paused. "I think she thought you'd come back sooner. I think she thought it would be a few months, maybe a year. She didn't know it would be 9 years. If I had known, I know. But you didn't know. And that wasn't your fault. It wasn't anyone's fault, really. It was just a series of circumstances that led to this." Marcus thought about Christina, 20 years old, pregnant, alone, trying to reach someone who had moved on, who was building a new life in a new city, who didn't even know she was trying to reach him. "Do you think she's okay?" he asked. "Wherever she is." "I hope so," his mother said. I pray that she found some peace, that she's doing better, that maybe someday she'll be ready to come back, but I don't know, and I've learned not to count on things I can't control." They sat with that for a while. The possibility of Christina out there somewhere, maybe healed, maybe still struggling, maybe gone in a more permanent way, they would probably never know. "The boy asks about her sometimes," his mother said. About his mother, what she was like, why she left. "I've tried to be honest without being cruel. I've told him she loved him but couldn't take care of him, that sometimes people do the best they can, and it still isn't enough." "What does he say?" "He doesn't say much. He's like you that way, processes things internally, but I can see it bothering him. The not knowing, the wondering if there was something wrong with him that made her leave. There's nothing wrong with him. We know that. But he's 8. And 8-year-olds don't always understand the complicated adult reasons why things happen." Marcus thought about this, about the question the boy had asked in the truck. "Did you want me?" About the fear behind that question, the fear of not being enough, of being the reason someone left. "I'll talk to him," Marcus said. "I'll make sure he knows it wasn't his fault." "Good." His mother finished her tea and stood up. "I'm going to bed. Don't stay out here too long. You have a fort to finish tomorrow." "I won't." She went inside. Marcus stayed on the porch for a little while longer, looking at the quiet street, thinking about the fort in the backyard, about the boy sleeping inside, about Christina wherever she was, about all the ways life takes you places you never expected to go. He had come home to show his mother he had made it, to prove that leaving had been worth it. Instead, he had found that everything he had been working for, all that money and success and independence, mattered less than he thought. What mattered was in the house behind him, sleeping in a too-small bed, dreaming about forts and space and fathers who promised not to leave. Marcus finished his tea and went inside. He checked on the boy before going to his own room. The boy was on his back, one arm flung over his head, mouth slightly open, deeply asleep. Marcus stood in the doorway and watched him breathe, this small person who was his, who he was responsible for, who he loved with an intensity that still surprised him every time he felt it. He thought about the nightmare, about the boy crying because in his dream Marcus had driven away. It would take time to convince him that wasn't going to happen, time and consistency and showing up every single day. But Marcus had time now. He had quit the life that didn't have time. This was his life now. And he was going to show up every single day. They finished the fort on Sunday. By mid-afternoon it was done, walls, roof, door, window, painted sky blue like the boy had wanted. It looked good, solid and level and square. A real structure, small but real. The boy was ecstatic. He crawled inside immediately and declared it perfect. He spent the rest of the afternoon moving things in. A sleeping bag, a pillow, a flashlight, some books. His stuffed dinosaur that he claimed not to sleep with anymore but clearly did. He arranged everything carefully, making it his own. "Can I really sleep in here tonight?" he asked Marcus for the 3rd time. "If you want to." "I definitely want to." "Then yes, you can really sleep in here." That night, after dinner, the boy brushed his teeth and put on his pajamas and grabbed his sleeping bag. Marcus and his mother walked him out to the fort. It was dusk. The sky was that particular purple-blue that only happens right after the sun goes down. The first stars were starting to appear. The boy climbed into the fort and arranged himself in the sleeping bag. He looked out through the window at them. "This is so cool," he said. "I have my own house." "You do," Marcus agreed. "Your very own house. That we built together. That we built together." The boy smiled. "Thanks, Dad." There it was again. Dad. More natural this time. Less testing and more stating. Marcus felt that feeling again, that crack-widening feeling that was too big to be just one emotion. It was pride and love and gratitude and regret and hope all tangled together. "You're welcome," Marcus said. His mother squeezed his arm, then she leaned down to the window. "If you get scared or cold, you come right inside, okay?" "I will, Grandma. And if you need anything, I'll come get you. I promise." She kissed her fingers and pressed them to the window. The boy pressed his fingers to the same spot from inside, their evening ritual. Marcus watched them and wondered how many times they had done that. How many nights his mother had kissed her fingers and pressed them to a window or a door frame or a forehead. Saying good night and "I love you" in that small gesture, they went inside. Marcus checked the back door every 20 minutes, just to see, just to make sure. But the boy stayed in the fort. When Marcus checked at 10 p.m., he could see the flashlight still on inside. The boy reading, probably. When he checked at 11, the light was off. The boy was asleep in the fort he had helped build, in his own little house in the backyard. Marcus stood at the back door and looked out at the small structure. He thought about building it, about the boy's hands helping hold pieces in place, about his mother passing screws, about the three of them working together to make something that hadn't existed before. He thought about how 2 weeks ago he hadn't known this boy existed, and now he couldn't imagine his life without him. How quickly love happens, how it doesn't need years to build. Sometimes it just appears fully formed in the space of a few days, in a boy's questions and his gap-toothed smile and his small hand reaching for yours in the dark. Marcus went to bed, and for the first time since arriving, he didn't lie awake thinking about everything he had lost or everything he had missed. He thought about what he had found, and he slept better than he had in 9 years. In the morning, Marcus woke to find the boy asleep in the bed next to him, curled up under the covers. The sleeping bag and pillow from the fort were in a pile on the floor. Marcus lay there for a moment, not moving, just looking at his son. The boy must have come in sometime in the night, must have decided the fort was fun, but the house was safer, or warmer, or just closer to people. After a while the boy stirred, opened his eyes, saw Marcus looking at him and smiled sleepily. "Hi. Couldn't make it all night in the fort?" "I made it most of the night, but then I got cold. And I remembered you said if I ever needed anything, all I had to do was come find you. So I came and found you." "Good," Marcus said. "That's exactly right." The boy yawned and stretched. "Can we make pancakes for breakfast?" "We can definitely make pancakes." They got up and went to the kitchen. Marcus's mother was already there, of course, making coffee. She saw them come in together and smiled. "Sleepover in the fort didn't last, huh?" "I made it until 3 a.m., the boy said with some pride. "That's pretty good for a first try." "That's very good," she agreed. They made pancakes together, the three of them moving around the kitchen in a dance that was becoming familiar. Marcus mixed the batter. His mother heated the griddle. The boy set the table. They sat down together and ate, syrup dripping, butter melting, the kind of breakfast that tastes better because of who you're eating it with. "What are we doing today?" the boy asked. "What do you want to do?" Marcus said. The boy thought about this seriously. "Can we go to the library? I finished all my space books. I want to get new ones, about robots this time." "Robots? Yeah, I think I'm interested in robots now. Did you know they sent a robot to Mars, and it's still there, just driving around taking pictures? That's so cool." Marcus looked at his mother. She smiled and shrugged. "The library is open until 5 on Sundays." "Then we'll go to the library," Marcus said. So they went to the library, the three of them. It was a small building, old but well-maintained. His mother worked here 2 evenings a week and every other Saturday. She showed them around like she was giving a tour, even though Marcus had been here 1,000 times as a kid. But it was different now. Now he was here with his son, watching the boy browse the children's section, watching him pull out books and read the backs, and carefully select 6 books about robots and Mars rovers and artificial intelligence. At the checkout desk, the librarian recognized his mother and smiled. "Helen, day off and you're still here." "Can't stay away," his mother said. "This is my son, Marcus, and my grandson, Marcus." "Both Marcus?" the librarian said. "That must get confusing." "We manage," Marcus said. The boy leaned over the desk. "I'm Marcus Jr., but you can call me Mark if it's too confusing." "Mark," the librarian repeated, scanning his books. "I like that. Strong name." The boy beamed. On the way out, he said to Marcus, "Do you like Mark as a name?" "It's a good name." "Better than Marcus Jr.? "I think so, yeah." "Okay, then I'm Mark now, M-A-R-C. That's me." Just like that, a new name, because he wanted one, because it was his choice. Marcus felt something shift. His son was becoming his own person, making his own decisions, even small ones like what he wanted to be called. They spent the rest of the day together, reading, playing in the backyard, making dinner, normal things, family things. And somewhere in the middle of all that normalness, Marcus realized he wasn't thinking about Houston anymore, wasn't thinking about what he had left behind. He was just here, present, in this moment with these people, his family. On Monday, Marcus had to make a trip back to Houston just for 2 days. There was a project that needed his eyes on it, the Thompson renovation. The clients had specifically asked for him to do the final inspection. Rico had tried to talk them out of it, but they had insisted, so Marcus had to go. He told the boy at breakfast. "You're leaving?" the boy said. His face went carefully blank. "Just for 2 days. I have to check on a project in Houston. Then I'm coming right back." "Oh." The boy pushed his eggs around on his plate. "Okay." "Mark," Marcus said gently. "Look at me." The boy looked up. His eyes were guarded. "I'm coming back," Marcus said. "I promise. 2 days. Wednesday evening at the latest. And when I come back, I'm staying. This isn't like before. I'm not leaving permanently. I'm just going for a quick work trip." "But what if you don't come back?" The question came out small, scared. "I will come back. I promise you. On everything I have, I will come back." The boy looked at him for a long moment. "You promise?" "I promise. And you know what? You can call me. Every day. Morning and night. We'll video chat so you can see I'm really in Houston and really coming back." "Really? Really? And I'll call you from the airport when I land, and I'll call you when I get to the hotel and before bed, and in the morning. I'll call you so many times you'll get sick of me." That got a small smile. "I won't get sick of you." "Well, we'll see. I can be pretty annoying." The boy's smile got a little bigger. "Okay, but you have to promise to come back." "I promise." Marcus left that afternoon. His mother drove him to the airport. They sat in the cell phone lot for a few minutes before he had to go in. "He's scared you won't come back," she said. "I know. You have to come back. I know that too. I'm serious, Marcus. If you don't come back, it will break him. He's just starting to trust you. If you break that trust—" "Mom," Marcus interrupted gently. "I'm coming back. I promise. 2 days. That's it." She looked at him. Really looked. Then she nodded. "Okay, I believe you." "Good." He hugged her. "Take care of him while I'm gone." "I've been taking care of him for 8 years. I think I can manage 2 more days." He smiled, got out of the car, got his bag from the back, went into the airport, through security, to the gate, on the plane. He called Mark from the airport like he promised, video call so the boy could see him, so he could see that Marcus was really at the airport and really coming back. "See?" Marcus said, turning the phone to show the gate area. "Terminal B, Gate 23. Flight 447 to Houston." "Okay," Mark said. He looked relieved. "How long is the flight?" About 2.5 hours. I'll call you when I land. Okay. I love you, buddy. The words came out before Marcus had thought about them. Just automatic. Natural. The way parents say it to their children, except Marcus had never said it before. This was the first time. Mark's eyes went wide. You do? Yeah, of course I do. You're my son. I love you. Oh. Mark looked like he was processing this. Then his face broke into the biggest smile Marcus had ever seen. I love you too, Dad. They said goodbye. Marcus got on the plane with his heart doing something complicated in his chest. He had a son who loved him, a son he loved. That was real now. That was true. And he was going to prove that he could be trusted, that he wasn't going anywhere. He was going to prove it by getting on this plane and doing this job, and then getting right back on a plane and going home. The trip was exhausting. He landed in Houston at 9 p.m. local time. Called Mark immediately, showed him the Houston airport, answered questions about what Houston looked like, flat, hot, lots of highways, promised again to call in the morning. He met with Rico at the hotel. They went over the schedule for the next day, the inspection, the meeting with the clients, the walkthrough of 2 other sites that needed attention. It was a full day. Marcus told Rico he needed to be done by 4 p.m. because he had a flight at 7. Cutting it close, Rico said. Can't be helped. I promised I'd be back Wednesday, and I'm going to be back Wednesday. The kid really got to you, huh? He's my kid, Rico. Of course he got to me. Rico smiled. It's good to see you like this, man. You seem, I don't know, settled. Like you found something you didn't know you were looking for. I did, Marcus said. I really did. The next day was packed. Inspection at the Thompson house. Meeting with the clients who were happy with the work but had a list of small changes they wanted. Walk through at the Midtown Commercial Building. Quick stop at the Sugarland development to check on foundation work. Marcus moved through it all efficiently. He had done this so many times, it was automatic. But his mind was elsewhere. Thinking about Mark, about the boy who was probably in school right now, learning about robots or Mars or whatever had captured his interest that day. He called at lunch, video call. Mark was eating a sandwich at his grandmother's kitchen table. How's Houston? Mark asked. Busy, hot, I miss home. Me too. Then catching himself, I miss you. I'm already at home. I know what you meant. They talked for 15 minutes. About Mark's day at school, about a drawing he had made in art class, about the book he was reading about Mars rovers. Normal stuff, the kind of stuff parents and kids talk about every day. Marcus had never had that before, never had someone to call and check in with, someone who wanted to know about his day and wanted to tell him about theirs. It felt good. It felt right. At 4 p.m., Marcus was done. He said goodbye to Rico, got in his rental car, drove to the airport, checked his bag, went through security, sat at the gate and called Mark again. See, gate 37, flight back home. I'll be there at 10 p.m. your time. I'll wait up, Mark said. You don't have to. You have school tomorrow. I want to see you when you get home. Okay. But if you fall asleep, that's okay too. I won't fall asleep. The flight was on time. Marcus dozed a little, tired from the long day. When they landed, he turned on his phone, and it immediately started buzzing. A text from his mother. He's asleep on the couch. Couldn't stay awake. But he tried. Marcus smiled. He collected his bag, went out to where his mother was waiting in his truck. She had insisted on picking him up. When he got in, she said he really wanted to wait up. I know. He's going to be so happy you're back. I'm happy I'm back. They drove home through the quiet night. When they pulled up to the house, Marcus could see the living room light on through the window. He got out, went inside, and there on the couch was Mark, curled up under a blanket, fast asleep, still in his clothes. He had clearly tried to wait up and lost the battle. Marcus set down his bag quietly. went to the couch, looked at his son. Then he gently picked him up. Mark stirred but didn't wake. Marcus carried him to his room, laid him in bed, pulled the covers up, stood there for a moment just looking at him. Mark's eyes opened, just a crack. "Dad? Hey, I'm back. You came back. I told you I would." "I know, but I was still worried." "You don't have to worry. I'll always come back, always." Mark smiled sleepily. "Okay, I believe you." He was asleep again in seconds. Marcus stood there a little longer. Then he turned off the light and went to his own room. He unpacked, changed into sleeping clothes, lay down in bed, and thought about how 2 weeks ago he didn't know this boy existed, and now he had flown 800 miles and back just to prove to him that he could be trusted, that he would keep his promises, that he wasn't going anywhere, and he knew, lying there in the dark, that he would do it again, and again, as many times as it took. Because that's what fathers do. They show up, they keep promises, they come back, always. The weeks turned into months. September became October, became November. The leaves changed, the air got cooler. They bought Mark a winter coat. Marcus finished the renovations on the house. New insulation, new furnace, new paint inside and out. The house that had been slowly falling apart for years was solid again. Warm, safe, good. Marcus's business in Houston kept running. Rico sent updates. Client reviews were good. Projects were on schedule. Marcus did video consultations twice a week. Flew back once a month for inspections. Never more than 2 days. Always called Mark multiple times while he was gone. Always came back when he said he would. And slowly, day by day, Mark stopped asking, "Are you coming back?" and started assuming that he would. The worry faded from his eyes. The careful guardedness disappeared. He started calling Marcus Dad without hesitation, started asking him to help with homework, started coming to him first with questions and problems and exciting news, started trusting. They established routines, pancakes on Saturday mornings, movie night on Fridays, building projects on Sundays. Marcus taught Mark about power tools, about measuring twice and cutting once, about how if you do a job right the first time, you don't have to do it again. Mark taught Marcus about planets and robots and why certain dinosaurs were better than other dinosaurs and how to beat level 7 of his video game. They learned each other, the way families do, through the daily practice of being together. In November, Mark had a concert at school. The 3rd grade was performing songs about Thanksgiving. Mark had been practicing for weeks. He was nervous. On the night of the concert, he couldn't eat dinner, just pushed food around his plate with his fork. "You're going to do great," Marcus told him. "What if I forget the words? Then you just mouth along until you remember them. No one will notice. What if I do notice? Then you'll know for next time to practice more. But you won't forget. You know all the words." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." They got to the school early. Found seats in the auditorium. Marcus sat between Mark's teacher, Mrs. Henderson, and his mother. The room filled up. Parents and grandparents and siblings. The lights dimmed. The kids filed onto the stage in their rows. Mark was in the 2nd row. He looked out into the audience, searching. When he found Marcus, his face broke into a smile and he waved. A quick little wave. Marcus waved back. The music started. The kids sang, their young voices high and not quite in tune, but enthusiastic. Mark sang every word. He didn't forget anything, and when it was over and the audience applauded, Mark looked right at Marcus with an expression that said, "Did you see? Did you see me do it?" Marcus gave him a thumbs up. Mark beamed. Afterward, in the lobby, Mark ran up to them. "Did you hear me? Could you hear my voice?" "I heard you," Marcus said. "You were great." "Really? Really, I'm so proud of you." Mark hugged him, right there in the crowded lobby full of other families. Just wrapped his arms around Marcus's waist and held on. Marcus hugged him back and looked over his head at his mother. She was crying, happy crying, the kind of crying that happens when you see something you've hoped for finally come true. They went out for ice cream after, the three of them in a booth at the local diner. Mark got chocolate with rainbow sprinkles and talked non-stop about the concert and who messed up their part, and how his friend Daniel's voice cracked in the middle of a song, and how Mrs. Henderson said they did such a good job. Marcus listened and ate his vanilla and thought about how this was his life now. Concerts and ice cream, and a kid who was proud of himself and wanted to share it. This was better than any business success, better than any amount of money. This was what mattered. Later, when they were home and Mark was in bed, Marcus sat with his mother in the kitchen. They had tea. They talked about the concert. Then his mother said, "You've done a good job." "With what?" "With him, with being his father. I know it wasn't easy, coming into it the way you did, but you've done really well. I'm just showing up. That's more than a lot of fathers do. You show up every day. You keep your promises. You love him. That's everything." Marcus thought about this, about the last 3 months, about how much had changed. "I thought coming home was going to be temporary," he said. "I thought I'd fix up the house, see you, maybe stay a few weeks, then I'd go back to Houston and my real life. And now this is my real life. Houston is just the place I work sometimes. This is home. He's home." He paused. "I didn't know I was looking for this, but I was, and I found it." His mother reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I'm glad you came back." "Me too." They sat in comfortable silence. Then Marcus said, "I'm thinking about selling the business in Houston, giving Rico my share, starting something here, local. Is that what you want?" "Yeah, I think it is. I don't want to keep flying back and forth. I want to be here, all the way here, not split between 2 places." "Then do it. You think it's the right call?" "I think," his mother said carefully, "that you're a grown man who knows what he wants. And what you want is to be here with your son. So yes, it's the right call." Marcus nodded. It felt right. Felt like the last piece clicking into place. He had come home 3 months ago with a truck full of supplies and plans to renovate a house. He had found a son instead, and now he was choosing that son over everything else, over the business he had built, over the life he had made. He was choosing this, family, home, the daily practice of showing up. It was the easiest choice he had ever made. Christmas came, their first Christmas together. Marcus went all out. He bought a huge tree, and they decorated it together, the 3 of them. Mark insisted on putting the star on top. Marcus had to lift him up to reach. Mark carefully set it in place, and they turned on the lights, and the tree glowed warm and bright in the living room. Marcus bought presents. Lots of presents. Maybe too many. He couldn't help himself. 8 years of missed birthdays and Christmases. He was trying to make up for it, even though he knew you can't really make up for lost time. But you can try. On Christmas morning, Mark woke up at 6 a.m. and ran into Marcus's room. Dad, it's Christmas. Can we open presents?" Marcus groaned and looked at the clock. "It's 6 in the morning." "I know. That's when Christmas starts." "Does it, though?" "Yes. Come on." So Marcus got up and they went to the living room. His mother was already there, of course, already up and making coffee. She had probably been up since 5. Some habits never change. They opened presents. Mark tore through his, with the focused intensity of a child who had been waiting for this moment for weeks. He got books about space and robots. He got a telescope. He got a remote control car. He got art supplies and games and a new winter coat that actually fit properly. He got everything he had asked for, and some things he hadn't. But the present that made him cry was the last one. A small box wrapped carefully. Inside was a watch. Not expensive. Just a simple watch with a leather band. But engraved on the back were the words, "For Mark, from Dad." Christmas 2023. I'll always come back. Mark read the inscription, read it again, then looked at Marcus with eyes that were bright and wet. You got this made special. I did. For me. For you. Mark looked at the watch, at the inscription. Then he launched himself at Marcus and hugged him so hard it almost hurt. Thank you, he said into Marcus's shoulder. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Marcus held him and looked over his head at his mother. She was crying again, happy crying. She mouthed good job at him, and he smiled. That afternoon, after the presents were opened and the wrapping paper cleaned up and Christmas dinner eaten, they all went for a walk. The neighborhood was quiet. Most people were inside with their families. The air was cold and sharp and perfect. Mark walked between Marcus and his grandmother, holding both their hands. Every few steps he would look down at his new watch, checking the time, making sure it was still there, still real. Best Christmas ever, he announced. Yeah, Marcus said. Yeah, because you're here. Last Christmas I wished you would come home, and now you're here, so it worked. It worked, Marcus agreed. Next Christmas will you still be here? Every Christmas from now on. Promise? Promise. Mark squeezed his hand. They walked through the neighborhood, the three of them, looking at Christmas lights and talking about nothing in particular. Just being together. Just being family. When they got home, Mark wanted to watch a Christmas movie. He picked Home Alone. They settled on the couch, Mark in the middle, Marcus on one side, his mother on the other. Halfway through the movie, Mark fell asleep, his head on Marcus's shoulder, his new watch still on his wrist. Marcus didn't move, didn't want to disturb him. So he sat there with his son asleep against him and Home Alone playing on the TV and his mother on the other side doing a crossword puzzle, and thought that this was perfect. This was everything. This was what he had been working toward his whole life without knowing it. When the movie ended, Marcus carefully picked up Mark and carried him to his room, laid him in bed without waking him, pulled the covers up, stood there for a moment looking at him. At this boy who had changed everything, who had taken Marcus's life and turned it inside out in the best possible way. Thank you, Marcus whispered. Not sure who he was thanking. God, maybe, or fate, or Christina, wherever she was, or his mother for keeping this child safe until Marcus could come home. Or maybe he was thanking Mark himself, for existing, for being patient, for giving Marcus a chance to be his father. He turned off the light and closed the door softly, went to his own room, lay down in bed, and thought about the year that was ending, how it had started in Houston with plans and projects and ambitions, how it was ending here with a son and a home and a family, how sometimes the best things that happen to you are the things you never planned for, never saw coming. Never knew you needed until they were standing right in front of you, looking at you with eyes that were almost but not quite like your own, asking if you wanted to see their rock collection. Marcus fell asleep smiling, content in a way he had never been before. Home in a way that had nothing to do with buildings or addresses. Home because of people, because of family, because of a boy named Mark who called him Dad and meant it. Spring came. Mark's 9th birthday was in January. They threw a party, invited kids from school, had pizza and cake and games in the backyard. Marcus helped with everything, decorations and food, and keeping 10 9-year-olds entertained for 3 hours. It was chaos. It was exhausting. It was perfect. When the last kid was picked up and the house was quiet again, Mark flopped on the couch. That was the best birthday ever. I'm glad, Marcus said. Next year, can we do laser tag? We can do whatever you want. Cool. Mark yawned. I'm tired, I bet. Dad, yeah? I'm really glad you came back. Like, I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I'm really, really glad. Marcus sat down next to him. Me too, buddy. Best decision I ever made. Even though you had to leave your business? I didn't leave it, I just changed it. And yeah, even though you're more important than any business. Mark looked at him seriously. You mean that? I mean that. Good. Mark leaned against him. Because I love you a lot. I love you too. They sat like that for a while. Then Mark said, sleepily, Do you think my mom will ever come back? The question caught Marcus off guard. They didn't talk about Christina much. It was a topic they all avoided. But apparently Mark had been thinking about it. I don't know, Marcus said honestly. Do you want her to? I don't know. Sometimes I think about what she's like. If she looks like me, if she thinks about me. He paused. Do you think she does think about me? Yeah, I do. I think she probably thinks about you a lot. Then why doesn't she come back? I don't know, buddy. Sometimes people have reasons that don't make sense to anyone but them. Sometimes people do the best they can, and it still isn't enough. Mark thought about this. Grandma says she loved me, but couldn't take care of me. Is that true? I think it is. I think loving someone and being able to take care of them are two different things. And your mom, she loved you, but she was young and scared and she didn't know how to be a mom, so she made a choice, a hard choice. She left you with Grandma because she knew Grandma would take care of you. And then you came back. And then I came back. And now I have you and Grandma, so that's pretty good. That's really good, Marcus agreed. Mark was quiet for a moment. Then he said, If she ever comes back, would you let her meet me? Marcus thought about this, about Christina, about what she might be like now, whether she had healed, whether she regretted her choice, whether she wanted to know the son she had left behind. If she came back, Marcus said carefully, and if she wanted to meet you, and if you wanted to meet her, then yes, I would let her, because she's your mother, and you have a right to know her if you want to. Would you be mad? No, I wouldn't be mad. I might be worried. I might be protective, but I wouldn't be mad. Okay. Mark yawned again. I don't think she's coming back, though. I think if she was going to, she would have already. Maybe, Marcus said. Or maybe she's still figuring things out. People take different amounts of time to heal, to become who they need to be. I guess. Mark stood up. I'm going to bed. Thanks for the party, Dad. You're welcome. Mark went to his room. Marcus stayed on the couch for a while thinking about Christina, wondering where she was, whether she knew that her son was safe and loved and doing well, whether she would ever come back, whether that would be good or bad if she did. He didn't have answers, just questions, but he knew one thing for certain. No matter what happened, no matter who came or went, he would be there. He would be Mark's father. He would show up every single day for the rest of his life. That was a promise he could keep. That was something he could control. The rest was just waiting to see what happened. It was a Saturday in April when Christina came back. Marcus was in the garage, working on fixing an old lawnmower, when his mother came out. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. She's here, she said. Who's here? Christina. She's at the front door. Marcus stood up so fast he almost knocked over his toolbox. What? Christina. She's here. She wants to see Mark. Marcus's heart started beating faster. Does Mark know? He's at Daniel's house. He won't be back for an hour. Good. Okay, good. Marcus wiped his hands on his jeans. His mind was racing. What do? We talk to her. We hear what she has to say. Then we decide. They went inside together, through the house to the front door, and there, standing on the porch, looking older and thinner and more tired than Marcus remembered, was Christina. She looked up when they appeared. Her eyes met Marcus's. Hi, she said softly. Hi, Marcus said. They stood there for a moment. 9 years collapsed into a single look. All the history, all the complicated feelings, all the questions that had never been answered. Can I come in? Christina asked. Marcus looked at his mother. She nodded. He stepped back. Yeah, come in. Christina came inside. She looked around the living room like she was seeing a memory. It looks the same. Some things change. Some things stay the same, Marcus's mother said. Not unkindly, just stating a fact. They sat in the living room, Christina on one chair, Marcus and his mother on the couch. An awkward arrangement, like people who don't know how to be with each other anymore. Why are you here? Marcus asked, not aggressive, just direct. To see him, to see Mark, if that's okay. After 9 years, you just show up and want to see him? I know I don't have the right, I know I don't, but I had to try. I had to at least try. Marcus looked at her, really looked. She was wearing a simple dress and a cardigan. Her hair was shorter than he remembered. There were lines around her eyes. She looked like she had been through something hard. Where have you been? He asked. California. I went to California. She stopped, started again. I had a breakdown, a bad one. I was in a hospital for a while, a psychiatric hospital, and then I was in therapy. A lot of therapy. It took years, but I'm better now. I'm stable. I have a job. I have a place. I'm okay now. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you let us know you were okay? Because I was ashamed, because I thought you all hated me, because I thought Mark was better off without me. She looked down at her hands. I was wrong about the last part. I don't know if he's better off without me, but he deserves to know I didn't just abandon him because I didn't care. He deserves to know that I was sick, that I'm sorry, that I think about him every day. Marcus's mother spoke up. He does think about you. He asks about you sometimes, wonders if you're okay, if you think about him. Christina's eyes filled with tears. He does. He's 9 years old. Of course he wonders about his mother. Can I see him, please? I'm not asking to be his mother. I know I lost that right. I just want to see him, to tell him I'm sorry, to let him know I'm okay. Marcus looked at his mother. She looked back at him. A whole conversation happened in that look. What do we do? This is your call. He's your son now. You decide. Marcus turned back to Christina. He'll be home in an hour. You can stay, you can meet him, but I need you to understand something. I'm his father now. Not just biologically. I'm his dad. I've been his dad for 9 months. And if you do anything to hurt him or confuse him or make him feel like he wasn't enough for you to stay, you're leaving. Do you understand? Christina nodded. I understand. Thank you. Thank you for letting me see him. They waited. The three of them, not talking much. Sitting in the living room while the clock ticked, Marcus called Daniel's mom and asked if Mark could stay another half hour. Bought them some time to prepare, to figure out what to say. When Mark finally came home, bounding through the front door with his usual energy, he stopped short when he saw the stranger sitting in the living room. Oh, he said. Hi. Christina stood up. She looked at him, at this boy who was hers and not hers, who she had held as a baby and then left, who had grown up without her, who looked like her and like Marcus and entirely like himself. Hi, she said. Her voice was shaky. I'm Christina. Mark looked at her, then at Marcus, then back at Christina. You're my mom. I am. I was. She didn't know how to answer. Mark looked at Marcus again. Marcus nodded, giving permission, or support, or both. Mark turned back to Christina. Why did you leave? The question was direct, simple, devastating. Christina's composure cracked. Tears started falling. Because I was sick in my head. I wasn't thinking right. I was scared all the time. And I thought you would be better with your grandma. I thought she could give you what I couldn't. Did you ever think about coming back? Every day, every single day. Then why didn't you? Because I was too ashamed. Because I thought you would hate me. Because I thought it was too late. Mark looked at her for a long moment. processing. His face was unreadable. Then he said, "I don't hate you." Christina made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. "You don't?" "No, I was sad. When Grandma told me you left, I was really sad. I thought it was my fault." "It wasn't your fault," Christina said urgently. "It was never your fault. You were perfect. You are perfect. I was the one who was broken. Are you fixed now?" "I'm better. I'm getting better. It's a process." Mark nodded, like he understood, like he was older than 9. "Do you want to stay, like to be my mom again?" Christina looked at Marcus, at his mother, then back at Mark. "I don't know if I can be your mom again, not the way I should have been, but I'd like to be in your life, if you want me to be, if your dad says it's okay." Mark looked at Marcus. "Is it okay?" Marcus came and stood next to Mark, put his hand on his shoulder. "That's up to you, buddy. Do you want her in your life?" Mark thought about it, really thought. Then he said, "Can I think about it? I don't have to decide right now, do I?" "No," Marcus said. "You don't have to decide right now. You can take all the time you need." "Okay." Mark looked at Christina. "I need to think about it. Is that okay?" "That's more than okay," Christina said. "Take all the time you need." They talked for a little while longer. Careful conversation, questions and answers. Christina told Mark about California, about her job at a bookstore, about therapy, about how she was learning to be okay. Mark listened and asked questions and stayed close to Marcus the whole time. When Christina left, she gave Mark her phone number. "If you want to talk, or if you decide you want me around, call me, okay?" "Okay," Mark said. She left, got in her car and drove away. Marcus and Mark stood on the porch and watched her go. "You okay?" Marcus asked. "I think so. It was weird." "Yeah, it was weird. I don't know what I want to do." "That's okay. You don't have to know yet." They went inside. Marcus's mother made hot chocolate. They sat at the kitchen table and Mark asked more questions about why Christina left, about what mental illness is, about whether people can really get better. Marcus and his mother answered as honestly as they could, didn't hide the hard parts, didn't make it simpler than it was. "If I want her around," Mark said eventually, "does that mean I love you less?" "No," Marcus said immediately. "Not even a little bit. You can love both of us. Love isn't a limited resource. You don't run out. But you're my real dad now, right? I'm your dad. Period. Nothing changes that. If Christina comes back into your life, she'll be, I don't know, an extra person who loves you, but I'm still your dad. That doesn't change." Mark nodded slowly. "Okay, good. Because I don't want you to not be my dad. I'm always going to be your dad, no matter what. That's forever. Forever. Forever." Mark smiled. "Okay, then I think maybe I want to get to know her, a little bit. If that's okay." "It's okay," Marcus said. "Whatever you decide, it's okay." So they did, slowly, carefully. Christina came over once a week, Saturday afternoons. They would sit in the living room or the backyard, talk. Sometimes they played board games. Sometimes they just talked. Mark was cautious, kept his distance. But gradually, very gradually, he warmed up. Marcus watched it happen and felt complicated things. He was glad Mark was getting to know his mother, glad Christina was trying, glad Mark would have that connection. But he was also protective, watchful, ready to step in if Christina faltered, if she made promises she couldn't keep, if she hurt Mark again. But she didn't. She was careful, consistent. She came when she said she would. She called when she said she would. She was honest about her limitations, about what she could and couldn't offer. And slowly, Mark began to trust her, a little bit. By summer, Christina was coming over twice a week, was taking Mark for ice cream sometimes, was there for his school events. Not as a mother, more like an aunt, or a family friend, someone who cared, but who knew her place, who knew that Marcus was dad, and that wasn't changing. It was complicated, but it was working, and Mark seemed okay with it. Seemed happy even to have more people in his life who loved him. "You're handling this well," Marcus's mother told him one evening. "It can't be easy. Sharing him." "I'm not sharing him," Marcus said. "He's still mine, still my son. Christina is just extra bonus, someone else who loves him, and that's good. He deserves all the love he can get. You've grown up a lot in the last year." "I had to. I had a son to raise." She smiled. "You're doing a good job. Your father would be proud." Marcus thought about his father, about the man who had raised him with patience and love, who had taught him how to use tools and how to treat people right, who had died too young, but who had left enough of an impression that Marcus was still learning from him years later. "I hope so," Marcus said. "I'm trying. Trying is all any of us can do." It was late August when Marcus got the call from Rico, his business partner in Houston, former business partner, technically. Marcus had sold him his share 6 months ago, but they still talked regularly, still friends. "I have a proposition for you," Rico said. "What kind of proposition?" "The Thompson Project. You remember that?" "Yeah. What about it?" "The clients loved it so much that they've been telling everyone about us. We're getting calls from all over Houston, more than I can handle alone. I need help. So hire someone." "I'm trying to, but it's not the same. These clients want you specifically. They trust you. They like your work." "Rico, I can't move back to Houston. We've been over this." "I know, I'm not asking you to move back. I'm asking you to expand. Open a second location. Here, in North Carolina. Start a branch. You handle the local projects. I handle Houston. We split the profits. We both grow." Marcus thought about this. "A second location." "Yeah. You've been doing small local jobs, renovations, repairs, but you could be doing more, bigger projects. You have the skills. You have the reputation. Why not grow?" "Because I have a kid who's 9 years old and in school all day. You have time. You can hire people to help, build a crew, do what you do best. You don't have to choose between being a dad and having a career. You can do both." Marcus thought about this, about the small jobs he'd been taking, fixing porches and replacing roofs and patching drywalls. Good work, honest work, but not challenging. Not the kind of work that used all his skills. He had been telling himself he was content, but was he? Or had he just been so focused on being a father that he hadn't thought about what else he wanted? "Let me think about it," he said. "Take your time, but not too much time. I need to know soon." They hung up. Marcus sat with it, thought about it, talked to his mother, talked to Mark. "Would you be gone a lot?" Mark asked. "No more than I am now. I'd still pick you up from school, still be home for dinner, still do all the stuff we do. I'd just be working on bigger projects, building houses instead of fixing them. Would it make you happy?" "I think it would. I think I miss that part of my work, the creating, the building. I've been maintaining things, but I want to make things again." Mark thought about this. "Then you should do it. I want you to be happy." "I am happy. You make me happy." "I know, but you can be happy with me and also happy with work, right?" "Right. Then do it." So Marcus called Rico back, said yes, started planning, hired 2 guys he knew from previous jobs, rented a small office space, put together a business plan. By October, Chen Construction North Carolina was officially open for business. The work came. Word of mouth at first, then a referral from the Thompson clients who had moved to North Carolina, then another referral, then a small commercial project, then a residential development. It grew, slowly but steadily. Marcus found himself challenged again, using his brain and his skills in ways he hadn't in months, and he loved it. But he didn't lose sight of what mattered, didn't sacrifice family for work, kept his promises to Mark, picked him up from school, helped with homework, built things in the backyard on weekends. He had learned how to balance, how to be both, father and businessman, present and ambitious. One evening Mark said, "Dad, I'm proud of you." "What?" "Your business. You're building it. And you're still here. You're doing both. That's cool." Marcus looked at his 9-year-old son, who was wise beyond his years, who understood things most kids his age didn't. "Thank you, buddy. That means a lot." "You're welcome." They went back to their homework. Mark working on math problems, Marcus reviewing contract proposals, father and son working side by side, building their lives together. Mark's 10th birthday was coming up in January. He wanted a big party this year, bigger than last year. He wanted to invite his whole class. He wanted pizza and a bounce house and a piñata. "That's a lot," Marcus said. "I know, but I want everyone to come. I want a real party." "Okay, we'll make it happen." They planned it together, made lists, picked out invitations, decided on a theme. Space, of course. Mark was still obsessed with space. Marcus rented a bounce house, ordered pizza from 3 different places. His mother made a cake in the shape of a rocket ship. Christina offered to help with decorations. The party was chaos. 30 kids running around the backyard, the bounce house getting a workout, pizza disappearing faster than they could serve it, the piñata being demolished by a kid with a surprisingly good swing. It was loud and messy and perfect. Mark was in his element, running from group to group, making sure everyone was having fun, his face bright with happiness. At one point he ran up to Marcus and gave him a quick hug. "This is the best birthday ever." "Yeah? Yeah, thank you, Dad." Then he was off again. Back to his friends, back to the party. Marcus stood there with his mother and Christina watching him, watching their boy. Because he was their boy, all of theirs in different ways. Watching him be happy and loved and surrounded by people who cared about him. "You did good," Christina said quietly. "Both of you. He's amazing." "He is," Marcus agreed. "Thank you," Christina said, "for letting me be part of this. I know I don't deserve it, but thank you." "You're his mother," Marcus said. "You'll always be his mother, and he needs you. Maybe not in the way he needs me, but he needs you." Christina wiped her eyes. "I'm trying. I'm really trying." "I know, we can all see that." They stood together, the 3 adults who loved this one boy, who were figuring out how to all fit into his life. It wasn't traditional. It wasn't what anyone would have planned, but it was working. Because they were all putting Mark first, all trying to give him what he needed, and that was enough. When the party wound down and the last kid was picked up and the backyard was quiet again, Mark flopped on the grass. "I'm so tired." Marcus lay down next to him, looked up at the sky. "Good party, though. The best." They lay there for a while, not talking, just being. Then Mark said, "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever think about how different things would be if you hadn't come back?" Marcus thought about this. "Sometimes." "Why?" "I was just thinking, if you hadn't come back, it would just be me and Grandma, and I'd never know you, and you'd never know me, and that would be really sad." "Yeah, it would be really sad." "I'm glad you came back." "Me too, buddy. And I'm glad you stayed." "Me too." Mark rolled onto his side and looked at Marcus. "Promise you'll never leave?" "I promise. Even when I'm a teenager and annoying? Especially then. Even when I'm old and have kids of my own? Even then. I'm your dad forever. That doesn't change. Ever." Mark smiled. "Good. Because I love you." "I love you too." They lay in the grass while the sun set and the air cooled and the day turned into evening, father and son, together, home. So here's what I learned from Marcus and Mark's story. Sometimes the most important journeys aren't the ones we plan. Sometimes they're the ones that happen when our plans fall apart, when the life we thought we were building reveals itself to be preparation for the life we were meant to live all along. Marcus thought he was going home to show his mother he had made it, to prove that 9 years of sacrifice had been worth it. Instead, he discovered that everything he'd been working for, all that success and money and independence, was just the training ground for what actually mattered: being a father. Not the kind of father who shows up at the end with presents and apologies, but the kind who shows up every day, who keeps promises, who builds forts and makes breakfast and sits through school concerts and stays when staying is hard. Because real love isn't about the big moments, it's about the small ones, the daily practice of showing up, the unsexy work of being present, the quiet courage of staying. Now I want to ask you something. Do you know someone like Marcus? Someone who came back? Someone who chose family over everything else they thought they wanted? Or maybe you know someone like Mark, a kid who waited and hoped and finally got the parent they deserved? Tell me about them in the comments. Put their name. Tell me where you're watching from, because these stories matter. These everyday heroes who choose love over ambition, presence over profit, family over fame. And if this story moved you, if you felt something while listening, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because somewhere out there is a parent who's trying to choose between career and kids, between success and presence, between the life they planned and the life that's waiting for them. And they need to know that choosing family doesn't mean giving up on your dreams. It means discovering that your dreams were too small, that there's something bigger than success, something more important than achievement. There's showing up for the people who need you. There's being the answer to someone's prayer. There's being the father who comes back and stays. Subscribe to this channel if you want more stories like this. Real stories about real people doing extraordinary, ordinary things. Stories about love that looks like breakfast and homework and promises kept. Stories that remind us what actually matters when everything else falls away. We post a new story every week, and every week I promise you this. I'll tell you something true, something that will make you think about your own life, about the choices you're making, about who you're showing up for. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And remember, if someone's waiting for you to come home, if someone's hoping you'll stay, if someone needs you to be the person who doesn't leave, be that person. Choose them. Every time. The end.